All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching me across the state in Nigeria. They say writing and reading books are three indispensable entities that have stood with mankind right from the beginning of civilization, and I believe that these three have defined the differences or the difference between nations and their level of development. Again, I welcome you to another interesting edition of Real Talk with Kiki. I remain your convener, your executive producer, your host on this platform, Real Talk with Kiki. I think it's important for us to hear what on this day initial segment as for. So, when I return, I give my 2 cents on this. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. I think censor, well, that was a good thing back then for demographic and economic planning. At this age, in modern times, you know, no country does this manual censor anymore. So that is because of digitalization and, of course, the efficiency of database management. If we can keep good track of, you know, migration, birth, and I think birth deaths, you know, and what's it called, relocation, you know, we have no problem, or would I say we have no challenges with government debating on how to carry out these census with billions of naira. But the question is, how good is our database today? Let me just leave it at that, because I don't want anyone belling me after this show. On this note, I think it's important for us to get a quick message from my sponsors. When I return, we'll dive straight to the topic at hand. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. World Book and Copyright Day was established by UNESCO in 1995 to promote reading, publishing, and the protection of intellectual property. It is celebrated every April 23rd, honoring the death of anniversaries of literary legends like William Shakespeare and Mill de Cervantes, you know, and the day aims to inspire a love for books and recognize the contributions of authors, you know, publishers and educators worldwide. In a national or in a nation where millions of children struggle with reading and where books often, would I say, remain out of reach due to affordability or availability, we must ask, what is the true state of literacy in Nigeria? How our authors and publishers, you know, faring in a world of dominated piracy and digital disruptions? And more importantly, how can storytelling be a tool for shaping a brighter future? To have real talk around this conversation is a powerhouse guest. She is the chairperson of the Association of Children's Authors and Illustrators of Nigeria. Together, we explore the power of children's books, the right of creativity, and the place for storytelling in a nation building. But before we delve into real talk with my guest, I think it's important for us to play our profile. When we return, you agree with me that she's the right fit to throw a lot of light on this conversation. Stay with me, I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with us. Let me use this opportunity to quickly usher in my guest. Welcome to the show, Dr. Basirat Razaq-Shuaib. Did I pronounce the name properly?
No.
It's a pleasure to have you here anyway, as a learned writer on Real Talk with Ticket today. So help me with the pronunciation. I think it's your last name, right?
Yes.
Is it Shuaib?
No, it's Shuaib.
Shuaib?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, you know, when you have an author in the house, you have to learn how to pronounce your words properly. But, you know, I think I bother people there. I apologize. No ill intentions, you know, intended. But, you know what, many thanks for creating time to spend your lunchtime with me. Let's dive straight to the issue at hand, because what does this current state of, you know, literacy, you know, amongst Nigerian children reveal about our national priorities? I cannot help but bring this to fore, because how do poverty and infrastructure gaps and language diversity now impact reading culture in Nigeria? I must stay real with you. You know, I feel that there's this lack of reading culture amongst the children and in young learners today, because everybody are just engaged with the technology today. What do you have to say to this?
So, first of all, I think we should always look at problems from the root.
Okay.
So if you say that there's a lack of reading culture, you won't be far from the truth. There's research to support that. But things don't just happen in isolation. Things happen, you know, start from somewhere. And it's important to state this, because if you look at Nigeria and you look at our history, we have a storytelling history. I'm Yoruba. Oral storytelling
from our law,
is
from
a thing.
The garden,
do you understand?
And the older ones who tell the children stories.
My mom told stories. Exactly. We grew up watching Tales by Moonlight. So oral tales, oral storytelling traditions are things that we have. And we enjoyed listening to these stories. These are traditions that have been passed on from generations. So the question we need to start asking, or that we need to ask, is where did the misalignment come in, and what are the other factors that have complicated things to this point? There's no way we'll talk about this that we won't talk about, you know, the way that we have adopted Western culture. And that reading culture, and what was that reading for? When reading and literacy and all of this as we know it today was handed to us, it was handed to us as something imported, something foreign. This was not our traditional education system. And at the time that these things were being introduced, they were being introduced as things that prepared people for other things. So, you know, when you teach people subjects in school, you're preparing them for something. It wasn't necessarily that you're teaching them to read to enjoy reading, or you're teaching them to read so as to explore and that. So now trying to fix that problem is a lot more complicated, because other intersecting factors have now come into play. There's the multidimensional poverty, as you have spoken about. You know, about 26% of the children in Nigeria live in households, right, where the children are about the ages of 6 to 15, and many of them are not in school because of this multidimensional poverty that you speak of. It's such a massive, massive, massive thing when you look at it, how poverty is impacting people, how it is impacting families, how it is impacting children, how it is impacting the economy. And it also makes you question, what is the government prioritizing? I mean, in 2001, I'm sorry, in 2021, not 2001, in 2021 at the Global Education Summit, the year that was set to get rid of out-of-school children was 2026. So as of 2021, the agenda was set that as of 2026, we will be rid of out-of-school children issues. We are now in 2025. We're not even near. If anything, the numbers are not dropping, they're going up. So again, questioning, what are we prioritizing? as a government? And why is it that, you know, we have governments come and go, set these agendas, but it doesn't appear, those agendas don't appear to be moving the needle?
All right, many thanks for that insight, because you've said a lot right now. And what came to mind, you know, listening to you is I remember I asked a learned fellow a crucial question recently, and it goes about people read to pass. And I feel that that's one of the root causes, like you mentioned, that we should go back to the root causes. I feel that that's one of the root causes of some of our challenges today in Nigeria, because why does our brilliance, our intelligence go only little further, you know, beyond the classrooms or our classrooms? People's brilliance, you know, sometimes I feel that often lack maybe initiative or innovations, you know, or innovative potential. So let's address it from that root cause first, based on your submission that you just gave. Secondly is the fact that it is crucial for me to bring to fore that, you know, Nigerian children see themselves as their language and their communities, you know, that reflected in books. So how is ACAIN, you know, working to promote indigenous storytelling that you mentioned earlier, that, you know, we are bounded by storytelling, you know, so what kind of content do you think should reflect in the classrooms?
Okay, so let me take the first one around the culture of reading just to pass, not reading for enjoyment. There are 2 World Book Days that get celebrated. One gets celebrated in the UK in March. I think it's the 3rd Wednesday also in March, right? And then there's this World Book Day and World Book and Copyright Day recognized by UNESCO. And something that is common to both celebrations is reading for pleasure, reading for enjoyment, right? What you find is that right from early years, if you don't encourage the culture of reading for enjoyment, it makes the willingness to read a lot harder. So it is that this, you know, World Book Days are trying to amplify, to encourage people or parents or families or teachers or caregivers or whoever is in charge of supporting children to help them learn to read for enjoyment, right? What does reading for enjoyment look like? I'll give you examples. If my child wants to read, and I have 2 boys, if my child wants to read, I have a choice of saying, let's go in the library and handing over a book that I think would be the best book for them. There's another part, which is I could let them just sit with the books and let them pick something that they want to explore. Exploration.
Maybe pick a book and you both read
together. And you can both enjoy. But the thing is giving children that agency to pick what they want to read, how they want to read, and what they truly want to explore and enjoy. And then we support them in doing that. I think that's something that we now have to talk about a lot more, support parents to do a lot more. So it's not just we're handing books to children and telling them to just read.
Listening to you, I think it leads to the kind of profession that the children to also engage in, because many parents today want to force the children to be lawyers, to be doctors, you know, name it. I think it's a little bit tilted towards what you've just shared right now. But, you know, moving away from that a little bit, you know, I want to touch on the piracy, because piracy and poor copyright enforcement, you know, discourages authors and illustrators like you guys. You know, what reforms of actions do you think or are needed, maybe that's the word now, to protect intellectual properties in Nigerian literacy space? And the reason why I'm bringing this to fall is because I feel that, you know, books still largely unaffordable or unavailable for many families, just like I said in my openings, you know, and schools, especially in the rural areas, because many, you know, guests have been here today and on this platform, which they've thrown a lot of light on the rural area, how books are unavailable in those places. Should governments that you've mentioned earlier actually step in now to subsidize, you know, publishing or create public-private partnership? What's your take on this?
Okay, so I'll come to the topic of piracy, but let me start from a question you asked earlier that I haven't addressed, and that is the role that Association of Children's Authors and Illustrators of Nigeria, ACAIN, the role that we are playing in encouraging, a reading culture and supporting authors to protect their intellectual property. So as the name suggests, it is a community of authors and aspiring authors, right? A community to help them improve their creativity and thrive from it. So it's not just about writing, it's writing in ways that are good for the society, ways that are good for children, ensuring that, they're writing to high standards. And then at the same time, they are not just enjoying the creative process, they are also thriving from it. That is what we seek to do. And part of the things that we do as an association is capacity building. Capacity building, because we know that this is something that is essential to developing your craft. When we talk about capacity building, we have workshops where we invite people to come and talk to our members around protecting their intellectual property. On one of these workshops, and I'll give an example, we got someone from the National Library to come and talk to people about how to protect your intellectual property, how to make sure that you follow the legal deposit laws, which I don't know that a lot of people are aware of, right? What are the legal deposit laws? And it's important to, stress this. You find that people who are publishing, a good number of people who are publishing within the children's literature space are publishing as author publishers, so self-published authors. And so you might have the gap, that knowledge gap of knowing exactly what steps to follow in order to publish your work and also to protect your intellectual property in the process. So what are the things that are in place that the government has already put in place that we're not even aware of and we're not doing, and as such we're not taking advantage of to protect our intellectual property? That's one of the things that we do to enlighten our members. But then that then leads me on to the issue of piracy. It's a difficult thing to address in a system where it feels as if there are no consequences, right? When there's piracy, what happens thereafter? Where are you able to lay your complaints? Who are you able to talk to? What are you supposed to do? What is the redress procedure for, complaining? And again, don't forget, do I already have something in place that establishes you as the owner of that intellectual property? So say you have created a work, right? A body of work, and you have not, registered that as your copyright. And this is not just like writing in your book, the copyright for this belongs to this person. It's not just that text. Okay. It is establishing that, okay, I am the owner of this work, and I have deposited it with the National Library, and it has been catalogued in my name. And therefore, if anybody were to check, they can see that I own this intellectual property, and I can then, legally seek redress for it. And then even if I decide to seek redress, would I be adequately compensated? Where do I go to seek redress? So there's a lot of knowledge gap around what is happening. But again, we'll come back to government and say, when you need things to move, you see the amount of energy that goes into it. The posturing that we get from the government does not suggest prioritization, and it's it. So this is real talk, right? There's no need to, there's no need to sugarcoat those things and make it look like, it's not really so bad. No. The posturing that we get does not suggest prioritization, especially within the book industry. So, who is going to bell the cat? Who is going to take up, the responsibility of pushing this agenda. One person can't do it. We, as part of our work at Akin, we can advocate. We can talk about those things. We can write thought pieces in newspapers and make these things known on all the platforms where we appear. I'm here today, you know, in my capacity as an author and in my capacity as a Akin chair, and I'm talking about it. We raise awareness about these things. But beyond that, it takes more than, you know, just raising awareness to make things change.
Absolutely. So. Many thanks again for that elaborate summation. But before we go on a quick break, let me ask you this, because I know that they will start running commentary in my ears. Now, you know, with the rise of digital learning, you know, how can authors, you know, and illustrators, you know, embrace this, maybe what's the word to use now, tech without leaving children behind, you know? Our Nigerians publishers, you know, like I think Macmillan, you know, Evans Publishers, and the rest, you know, that are adopting or adapting fast into digital shift. I think that you need to throw more light on this technology thing, because I feel that many people today are tilting towards Kindle and the likes. You know, they are on their tablets, they are on their phones. So, what are the advantage or disadvantage of this digital diversity in Nigeria?
We can't stop the digital wave. We can't stop that from happening. Technology is meant to enhance our lives, and you know, the sooner we recognize that, the better it is for everyone. So the war really isn't against technology. The war is against the barriers in place that are not allowing equitable access to technology. Okay. Right? When you say people are going on Kindle and people are going on, you know, tablets and laptops, that is a privileged thing, right? That is a privileged thing. Are we talking about children whose classrooms don't have windows? That is the kids that we're talking about when we make this statement? Are we talking about the kids that are still learning under the tree? Are they the ones that we're talking about when we make this statement? Are we talking about children who are even struggling to read? Earlier when I made the comment about literacy, you know, low literacy levels, and as of 2020, the literacy level, right, was estimated at 45.2%. But the comprehension level was 28% thereabout. That is a wide gap. That is a wide gap. So it isn't just the fact that the literacy level isn't high enough. The comprehension level is much lower. We have big issues on our hands. So when we talk about technology not leaving some children behind, it's not, we cannot address the problem in silos. You know, we can't address it like it's just handing tablets to people, right? That is great. Moving things from maybe physical books to e-copies, that's helpful, right? But when I move something from physical book to tablets, but children don't have access to tablets, or they don't have access to electricity to charge the tablets, right? Or you give tablets to people who are hungry, right? Their master's needs haven't been met, and you're talking about tablets. You see how this complicates, this complicates the problem. You're giving books that are not leveled to children, right? The books are not leveled, and so when you give it to them, they're not able to read. You're giving books on tablets and hard copies to children who are still struggling to learn phonetics, right? So these are not issues that we'll take in isolation. Tech is good, tech is great. When we look at tech, however, we can't just look at tech for reading, tech not leaving children behind. We have to look at it holistically.
All right, many thanks for that. We'll go on a quick break, and when I return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with me, I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. Right, glad to know you're still right there with us. In case you're just tuning in, we've been having a powerful and timely conversation in celebration of World Book and Copyright Day. From the importance of, we like to say culturally relevant stories in children's books, to the need for stronger copyright protection and better access to books for all. And of course, this conversation is shedding a lot of light on critical gaps in our educational system, the creative sector, of course, rural area, areas. If you are passionate about literacy, education, or simply want to see Nigeria or a Nigerian, where every child can imagine, can read, can dream through books, I believe that this is the show for you today. Please stay with me. There's so much more to come from my guests today. I'm very sure those who are very learned, are really intrigued with our submissions right now. But again, I want to say many thanks, Dr. Basirat, Razaq-Shuaib. Oh my God, she's the Chairperson Association of Children's Authors and Illustrators of Nigeria. Again, many thanks for all your submission thus far. But let me quickly use this opportunity to open the phone lines. Remember, you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number 070-686-53440, showing on your screen right now. And of course, we're streaming live on Silverbird platform. We're about to get our page back, hopefully on Facebook. Hopefully we'll be able to reconnect back while we're live on the show. Again, I want to say many thanks for all that you shared thus far. But you are the Chairperson Association of Children's Authors and Illustrators of Nigeria. I cannot help but even Google you more when I was coming into the studio. What made her the king chair in this place, So I must ask you, how effective are national and state level curriculum policies in promoting reading as a core skills in Nigeria? And the reason why I'm asking this question is, are there books that are just for passing exams, or should there be more tool for lifelong learning and imagination? Because we know how children of today are. Let's be honest, I have 3 children, and the oldest is like, I just want to read, mommy, and just pass this exam. And the first day I heard that, I was like, no. You read, assimilate, and imbibe it in your everyday life, so that it can become an action word, not just for you to just, read. So what do you have to say to this?
So curriculum-wise, right, this would vary, from state to state. Although there's a national curriculum that is meant to be adopted, people have critiqued that curriculum, that it isn't adequate to support the 21st century kids. There are things in there that need to change. There are things in there that need to improve. We have also, critiqued it for not being inclusive enough, right? That exists. But despite this, I won't say that, nothing is being done. Well, what I find problematic is at implementation level. So even if you say that A, B, and C is what I want to run, how is that being implemented? Are the things that, those are the things that I am questioning. When it comes to the schools, the books that make their way into schools, how are the books selected? Yes, there is, documented procedure for selecting those books, but are they actually followed, right? Are there practices that are happening and facilitating, if I'm to say, poor quality books getting into schools for children to read? What are the quality control, processes in place? For one, publishing the book, and 2, for the book to get into school. Are there sharp practices? Are people cutting corners to get books into schools that should not be in schools? These are some of the things that I want to question. I grew up in this country, right? I schooled, at least up to my first degree, I schooled in this country. And I can talk about the quality of books that I had, but I attended a private primary school. Right? It's not the same in public primary schools. Now, in Lagos State specifically, we have seen a lot of effort in recent years to support teachers, right? Teachers to help children read. We've seen efforts to support children to read, but the problem is humongous, right? And so even despite all of these efforts, it still feels like not enough is being done. Is there a need to still revisit the curriculum? Absolutely. Is there a need to revisit practices around getting books to school? I talked about leveling. I write here in Nigeria, and I write for Oxford University Press. My latest book, The Sage and the Hunter, it just got released, is a level 9 book, right? Is a level 9 book. What they do, and this is, something that I have seen in the publishing process here and in the publishing process there. What they do is when they give you a level to write on, they ensure that you, the writer, are familiar with the requirements of that level. That means you know what children at the level at which you're writing are learning.
Assimilate.
What are they learning? What level of phonetics are they at? That will shape the words that you will use. It would shape your sentence structure. It would shape your grammar. And all of these things will be reviewed by not just you, by a team of people. Can I say the same applies here? No, I can't, right? Because I've published here and I've published there, and there's a massive difference. So if you imagine that you then pick a foreign book and you say, oh, this book appears like, it's because a lot of work has gone into the process of creating it, but also creating it for the right level.
The right audience. So I'm listening to you and I understand what you're saying, but what roles do tutors, teachers, play in encouraging reading habits? However we look at it, we might keep pointing fingers at, the gap in terms of the production of books and all of that. How can tutors or teachers, go for trainings? As a trainer myself, I feel that that's the major thing that we need to concentrate on right now in terms of access to literacy resources, that can be improved to support the reading culture. If the person who is actually, imbibing the teaching is not well equipped, how do you expect them to pass on the knowledge, so to speak, to these people? But that's the first question. Second is the fact, because I know that you give a lot of elaborate submissions where I'm trying to manage time right now. That's the reason why I feel that I have to bring you back. I want to look at the social and economic factors that are affecting parental engagement with children's reading as well. You cited an example with your children. I've given you an example with my own children. What can be done to encourage, reading in the homes, especially in rural and low-income communities? Because you and I are privileged people, so to speak. Do you understand? Let's put concentration into these communities.
Okay, so two questions. First is supporting teachers, and the next is supporting parents and families.
Yeah.
So first, to supporting teachers, there's no teaching without teachers, right? And so we know that at the heart of teaching are teachers, good teachers, right? Whatever goes to the teacher gets passed on to the children. And so you have rightly identified what needs to be done. Supporting teachers in a better way. How do we get our teachers? How are teachers trained? And what are the ongoing, train, support, development practices in place for teachers? A teacher recently told me that they took the TRCN exam. But even as a teacher, right, they complained about the TRCN exam. This is the exam that is meant to be the benchmark exam for teachers. Teachers who are qualified teachers, they complained about the quality of that exam, the level. And if this is the kind of exam we're writing, then it is still a problem that we're producing, the kind of teachers that we're producing. So absolutely, there is a need to support teachers. And I see a number of, so this is where I'm encouraging not just government intervention. Government intervention, we would scream that from now till forever. But I'm also encouraging private participation. Let's not leave, all of the problems to government. I'm encouraging private participation. I see organizations now coming up, and mostly NGOs, right? Civil society organizations coming up and trying to fill the gap. There's an event coming up, 1,000 teachers or something like that, coming up sometime in May I believe they're already promoting it. These organizations recognize the value of having good teachers in the classroom. So they are doing all that they can to develop the teachers, to ensure that the teachers are also emotionally well looked after, that, you know, the well-being is supported. It's hard to get a teacher to encourage teaching if they're not, you know, emotionally supported as well. So yes, there is the need to support teachers, and let's not just leave it to the government. We need more able, willing people to come on board and, you know, get into private-public participation and solve this problem. Now to the next thing about supporting families to read. You've highlighted a critical thing, which is the fact that I can be privileged to say I want to sit with my kids and read with them, because in the first instance, I know the value of reading. I know the value of reading at an early stage. So what support mechanisms are in place to support parents? How do we encourage them to read? And how do we encourage them to fit that reading into whatever else is going on for them? So I run an organization called the Blooming Mom, and what the Blooming Mom does is to support and empower women to grow, you know, develop resilience, grow, and still be able to enjoy the joys of motherhood, not feeling like they have to leave one out. I have to sacrifice my well-being or my joy or my career just to be a mom. That is what we do. But in the process of running that organization, one of the key things that I have found out is, for as long as we run parenting programs, right? And we're just telling parents, you need to, this is what to do, this is the right thing to do, without actually looking at the parents themselves, the emotional state, particularly of the primary caregiver. When we don't look at those things and address the things that might be going on with them.
Probably address the fact that, you know, I apologize, I'm interrupting your thought process now. Addressing the fact that, you know, women are not sitting back at home anymore. They are also leaving the house to work, to apply themselves at whatever field that they found themselves. Again, how do they find that in family integration, so to speak? Not just family balance now. You know, family integration where, you know, people are working to pay bills, so to speak. Many women today do not have that time. Basirat, let's be honest, to read with their children. How do we address that issue?
So first is awareness, right? Making people understand the importance of things, that, or the importance of those actions. So first of all, enlighten parents. Read with your kids, read early. Now beyond that enlightenment is put structures in place that can facilitate reading. And when I say put structures in place, it's not that I'm moving the burden away from the parents themselves. You know, you're parents, there's work to do. It comes with responsibilities. You should be prepared for that. But also, as a society, we need to put structures in place, the support systems in place that would enable these parents to be able to do well for their children. I see people running literacy clubs now, right? Literacy clubs encourage parent joint reading. And now NGOs that are doing literacy programs are not just doing with the kids, they are encouraging collaboration from community leaders, from parents. Go to the market and do this there with mom. Take something from within your living context, or do something with mom and bring together, or bring back as your reading practice. So enlightenment is one, but also creating those support structures within, you know, the ecosystem that the parents operate in, so that it's easier for them to do what we want them to do.
I like that aspect that you just mentioned. I think this is where, you know, children are being sent to their parents' offices, you know, go and become governor for one day, go and become CEOs for one day. What did you learn from it? What, you know, I think it's still interwoven with that. But quickly, let me ask you this last question, if I'm permitted, because I feel that over the last 10 years, there have been a huge debate, you know, in developed countries, you know, about how digital books, toys, screen time. I know you've mentioned a little bit about it, but I just want us to concentrate in 1 minute on this in terms of the educational videos for toddlers have been, have been impacting, their growth and development. How can, many people argue that, all these issues are playing out in how the children are assimilating fast, or how they are not even paying attention to their studies. Some part of Europe have even resulted to zero screen time for toddlers now. How do we manage all of this?
Okay, so
in 1 minute.
Okay.
We're running out of time.
So with everything, we need to strike balance. We have a research about to happen on digital literacy, right? To see what is being prioritized when it comes to digital literacy for children in primary and secondary education. What are some of the factors leading to it? We can't walk outside of data. We can't walk outside of research. We can't walk outside of what we know. At some point, there was the argument that, these tablets, these devices, the more they spend, as long as they are educative, it helps them to learn faster. It helps them. We're now seeing new research that are against screen time. This field keeps evolving. What we want to do is ensure that we have a good balance between the tech and the physical books, because all of those things have different skills that they're developing in kids. And so to look at a good balance for kids, how much of screen time, everything needs to happen in moderation. That is the thing. And we as parents, as teachers, we have a big role to play in ensuring that.
So talking about big role to play, I'm sorry, I'm trying to manage that right, and I can see that you're a woman of words. I can mention a few, like Mrs. Talabi of Wimbase, who is equally doing a fantastic and amazing job in using storytelling to shape the national identity right now when it comes to empathy. Empathy for me is big, when it comes to values, and of course the civil consciousness in the next generation with our work, with our words and all of that. I must ask you, what is Dr. Basirat's, vision for literacy? You've shared a lot right now in terms of, story-rich Nigerian contest in the next decade, in 1 minute, quickly.
So my vision for literacy is to see a society in Nigeria where every child is not just able to read, but can see themselves represented in what they're doing, in what they're reading, and that the stories can shape their values, that the stories that they read reflect a positive society such that they feel positively inclined to be a part of and contribute to the growth of the society that they're in. Inclusive books, value-laden books. That is what my vision is. And supporting children to just enjoy reading.
All right. Many thanks, many thanks. I wish you the very best as you continue to navigate these waters in the educational system. But before I let you go, there's a last segment of the show that I call Trending Stories. These are stories, that binds us as Nigerians, as Africans. And this is where I have an opinion as a host. And the first trending story that caught my attention is that of the airpiece that cancels all flights within immediate effect. Before I come to you, Dr. Basirat, let me quickly say this, because airpiece decision to suspend all flights across the country because of the NIMET strike shows that the airline is truly after the peace and safety of passengers, not just making money. In a time when many companies put profit first, this move proves that, airpiece values human lives, more than business gain. It's not because they are my sponsors or I'm a trainer for them or anything like that. I keep it real as much as I can. So without the vital weather reports from NIMET, especially during the rainy season with heavy storms and low visibility, flying would be a serious risk. Let's keep it real. Second is the fact that this decision also shows that airpiece understands the importance of following global aviation standards. They could have kept flying and taking chances, but they chose not to gamble with people's lives. That is the kind of responsibility that we expect from a top airline. While some people complain about delays of fares and the likes, Nigerians cannot do anything to satisfy us. So this action just reminds us that running an airline in Nigeria comes with a lot of challenges that are not always visible to the public. I keep telling people, when people bail me left, right, and center regarding these challenges, I say, flight safety depends on collaboration with key agencies, you know, and when one link is missing, like owing salaries of government staff, that it can affect the whole chain. I keep telling people that, you know what, this thing is a chain. How do we take responsibility as individuals, as agencies, as organizations to do better? EPIS deserves credit for this bold step, if you ask me. This is how we build trust, how we build protection, protecting lives. We hope our airlines and businesses will learn from, you know, this example and follow suit, and not make people's lives as if it's just, I don't know, let me control my words right now. Quickly, in 30 seconds, if you can. These people, they can jack us.
Look, I would be worried about people who are criticizing Airpeace for taking this position, right? When Airpeace came into business, they signed a contract of safety with us, right? We will fly you to your destination safely. And now a facility, a critical facility that would enable that is not in place, and you still expect them to fly. So say they flew the aircraft and then something happens. Wouldn't we be the same group of people who'd, you know, criticize them and say, but why did you do this? Why did you do that? So I'd be really worried about, you know, the people who are harassing Airpeace and calling them out for cancelling the flights. They do what is best, not just for the passengers, but also for the business.
Absolutely.
Right? Also for the business.
Absolutely. Well done, well done. So quickly, let me move to the second trending story, which is the recent, you know, defection or deflection. I don't know if the word is, you know, English wants to fail me now. With our politicians from PDP to APC, you know, our country is a very funny one. Politically, I have said it before, and I will continue to say it again. We don't have philosophy or ideas guiding us or binding us with all these political parties. These are not, you know, but I'm not even ready to I'm not comparing our political landscapes with developed nations like UK and US, where the parties, you know, are divided, and you understand the reason why they are. You can expect or know that each party will do or deliver on certain things, and these are the principles they stand for, and it will reflect in their manifestos. However, coming down to our dear country, Nigeria, even though I don't look like you people, so that I ask myself, what about Nigeria? You know, because, you know, the same set of people you see in PDP today are the same set of people you see in APC tomorrow. You have nothing to be said from other than the fact that these players and political gladiators, so to speak, are only labeled by parties, but entirely not this. I don't know. I'm struggling with my thought process now. So they are just out there for their own selfish interests. Guys, they are only willing to stand with alliances, you know, that favor their own pockets or their own prosperity. Now, back to our case. The game is already taking a glare, you know, it's right in front of us. This is 2025, and we've started seeing politicians, you know, defect and cross carpet to APC from PDP. We shouldn't be even surprised, guys. I've seen a lot of commentary on social media. People say, it doesn't mean anything. 2027 is different. They've started politics now. We will see more of this when, you know, when it's near. So while the president was away in Europe, his son was busy campaigning for 2027 in the north. You know, the NPP, lawmakers, you know. I think Somalia, you know, also confirms, you know, the defection, what's it called now, to APC, you know, and of course the Delta State governor, the sheriff, you know, his deputy, Monday Oyema, you know, and the former governor Okowa, you know, all of them just moving from PDP to APC. Before it was rumored that I saw it on this day newspaper, I was telling everybody that don't worry, there's always an atom in this rumor that we're all seeing. So it's just unfortunate that Nigerians, this is who we are. To whatever end it could be, whatever end this is going to bring is the question I'm asking, that why haven't we made a resolution or resolve this poverty issue that we found ourselves? Because I feel that poverty mentality is what is pushing everybody. When you see EFCC go after the government, be ready that if they're in another party, they will quickly just move to the ruling party, all because of what? It's unfortunate, but everlasting solution to all the insecurity battling between us in our country, nobody's talking about it. Why are we not focused on the needs of 220 million citizens? Why are we not after the power, the cost of power in this country? This simple demonstration is what I think that we should be debating when it comes to the intention of our leaders towards, you know, the citizens. I don't know, this selfishness is just too much with the politicians to stay in power at all costs. Unfortunately, they started only commentary in my ears. I wish you could just put one or two comments out there, but I don't want them to yank us. So I just want to say many thanks, Dr. Basirat, for creating time, you know, to lend your voice on issues that affect the root cause of the problems all over the world. It's not just in Nigeria, and it is when we can catch them young. That is when we can know that, you know, the country is being impacted and there will be change and there is hope for the future. Unfortunately, this is where I draw the curtains of the show. Till I come your way next week, remember to catch me live on Inspiration. I'm sorry, I like work tomorrow. I was at Inspiration every yesterday. Be kind to one another till I come your way next week. Bye now. My name is Kikelemo Atandao Abati.
I think attaching